Hey guys, welcome back. I figured today I would go back in time just a little bit. Not back to the future, back to the past. And tell you guys about our journey and how we started out on this crazy ride and where we are now. Because I realize that not everybody has gone all the way back to the beginning and watched from the start. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a recap. So we'll get to that in just a second.
With every start, we are born again. Open your heart, spend this time in your head.
All right, so to start, I guess from the very, very beginning, I was never a tiny kid. I was never really a small person. My senior year in high school, I was 175 pounds. And most people couldn't really tell that I weighed that much. I hide my weight pretty well. It's mostly lower in my legs. And so you don't really notice it as much, but I always knew it was there. I went on birth control pills at the age of 13 because my hormones and my cycle were such a mess. My skin was so bad. I went on Accutane when I was a teenager. There was just a lot of stuff like that. I ended up going off the birth control pills so that I could get pregnant once I was married, and I was 22 when I had my first child. I was okay after that for that time span, and then I got pregnant and had my second child. And that one hit me a lot harder. I had really bad postpartum depression with my second. So the doctors put me on medication and they told me, this is just for a little while until your hormones regulate. But I knew my hormones were never going to regulate because they had never regulated. So I kind of figured it was a lifelong thing. My mom has all kinds of diagnoses. She's got Hashimoto's disease, all kinds of things. So I knew that that's the way I was headed. And after a couple years of not being able to get off the medications and just upping the medications, my doctors finally told me, yeah, this is just the way you are. It's the roll of the dice. Sorry, you'll never get off of your meds, but you're so much better on them. And in some ways they were right. And in some ways they were very wrong, because whatever it was that I was taking medication for to fix, that one part of my life would have gotten a little bit better. But then there was these other things that were stacking up and going wrong. And I was being affected in other ways that I didn't understand. Like I didn't even notice them because they weren't really on my radar. But when you go to the doctor and you fill out the form, are you depressed? How do you feel? Do you have energy to do X, Y, Z? I started to notice that the longer I was on the medications, the more of those boxes I was checking off saying, yep, I got this problem, I got this problem. So what did they do? They put me on more meds. And, it made sense that that's what you had to do. If one medicine wasn't working, you had to do two medicines. None of my doctors ever talked about diet, ever, once. And they said that this is just genetics. It's just the way that it is. There's nothing you can do about it. So what kind of got me started on this path was I was completely maxed out on 3 antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications. So we had to do something else. We had to switch medications. There was no more going up. So my doctor, my psychiatrist prescribed 3 new medications on a fairly low dose to start out so we could build up. And of course, I was in the process of building up. Well, at this point in time, I just had Bella. She wasn't very old, and her birth was very traumatic. She was 9 weeks early, 2.5 pounds, over a month in the NICU, and I lived out of the RV on the campus at the hospital for as long as I could to be near her because she was almost 3 hours away from us. Because I delivered so early, we had to go 3 hours away to a large enough hospital to be able to accommodate her. So there was that. That was extremely traumatic. That was rough. After that is when I really ballooned up in size and my depression just got worse and worse. So I needed to adjust my medicine, but there was no more adjusting it. So we had no choice but to go to 3 new medications. So we were in the process of me getting onto these new medications. We were upping the medications. And one day, Richard and Bella and I were heading to my psychiatrist's office to go for my checkup to see how I was doing. Well, the psychiatrist's office was about 25 minutes away. away. So we drove, we got close. I got really hungry. So we stopped into an Arby's and we got Arby's. Now at this point in time, I'm gluten-free. That's the only thing that I've changed in my diet, in my life. And I've been gluten-free for about 10 years. And I just know that when I get gluten, bad things happen. So we stop at Arby's, we say just the meat. Well, of course, this was 6 years ago. They took the meat, they put it on the bun, they wrapped up the bun, they unwrapped the bun, they took the bun off and put the meat into a bowl. And we got it through the drive-thru. We were driving away and I opened up my container and I could see the little crumb pieces from the bread on there. I'm starving. We're gonna be late to the doctor's appointment. So I'm like, forget it. I'm just gonna pick off the crumb pieces, put them away, and I'm just gonna eat the meat. Yeah, so I did that. Takes about 20 minutes after I got gluten or cross-contamination of any kind, and I would have a massive anxiety attack. So guess where my anxiety attack happened? Yeah, in my psychiatrist's office with my little tiny baby sitting in her car seat sleeping and my husband with me in tow, and I am just falling apart. I'm sitting in the room just bawling. So of course my psychiatrist walks in and she sees that and she looks down at the baby and she looks up at Richard and she goes, how long has this been going on? And we tried to tell her that it only happens when I get gluten, when I get cross-contamination. She didn't believe us. She didn't understand. She didn't want to understand. She didn't want to believe it. I'm not sure what combination of all of the above. So she said, give me a minute. So she left and she came back in the room about 3 minutes later and she said, Amy, it looks like you could use a break. I was like, well, I mean, every mom could use a break. Sure, I guess. And she said, I think maybe you should take a couple of days off and go away so that you can get the break that you need. And okay, I guess. So then she said someone would be there in just a few minutes to escort me to the ER. What she had done is she had called a 5150 on me. She called a suicide watch on me. And at that point in time, there was nothing we could do. So we sat in the office as I finished my hysterical anxiety attack, and the sheriff's deputy showed up and walked me over to the ER and got me admitted. I was sitting in the bed, and right around then is when my brain cleared and everything calmed down and I was okay again. But I realized that it was too late. There was literally nothing I could do to get out of it. And there was no point in me pitching a fit. There was no point in me doing anything else because I'm sure they'd already seen it all. So I looked up at the guy and I said, you know what? Thank you for being here. And I'm really sorry that you have to do this. This is a misunderstanding, but thank you for, doing your job, because this can't possibly be fun for you. He kind of looked at me. He was like, you're welcome, ma'am. That was about as much of a conversation as we had. So I was taken a couple hours away and into a facility where they gave me my medicine. They watched everything that I did for 3 days. I had to go to group sessions and they were going to determine whether or not I was safe to go back. So of course, I was on my very best behavior. And of course, I barely ate because everything that they had there had gluten in it. And I ate a lot of salads with sometimes dressing, sometimes not. They had chicken breasts several times, so that was okay. Eggs and bacon. I knew nothing at this point in time about being low carb or keto, so I just stuck with the gluten-free options. I did eat rice because rice is gluten-free, so that was fine. I didn't eat a whole lot of stuff though. During my time there were several patients there who asked me if I worked there because there wasn't anything wrong with me, so why was I there? And I actually had 2 nurses ask me, why are you even here? And so I explained to them, well, I got gluten. And they all looked at me like, you are crazy, that's why you're here. Because nobody really believed that gluten was that big of a thing. So finally, after 3 days, I was good and they decided to send me home. So Richard had to come and pick me up and check me out and take me home. That was beyond exhausting and terrifying because I realized that now I was on a list for life and I would always be watched. And I saw how easy it was to be taken away from my family for a misunderstanding, for something that was out of my control. And I knew that we had to find a way to get better. We had to find a way to get me off of medication. That was my goal because I actually used to have nightmares about having to go on a trip and forgetting my antidepressants. It was that bad. I couldn't function without them. So I was like, I have to find a way to get off these medications because I'm sure that if I could just lose weight, I would be happy and I could go off of all of my medications and I would be good. Funny thing is, I was at Walmart standing in line, getting ready to check out. And this was, I think, the first time I'd gone out by myself since being taken away. And I was standing in line and I was honestly just praying. I was like, you got to show me what to do because I don't know what to do. I've tried everything. I've tried Weight Watchers. I've tried LA Weight Loss. I've tried every yo-yo diet that I could possibly think of. Every so-called new fad diet that was going to work, including trying to go vegan. All of them. I've tried them all. And I'm standing in line and I look up and I see this magazine. It says, Keto Saves a Woman's Life. Okay, I've heard about keto, seen keto, refused to do keto because keto is a fad diet and it's not going to work, just like all the other fad diets didn't work. So on the front, there's this picture of chicken noodle soup, and the noodles are simply shredded cabbage. That was the only thing that they changed. And I went, okay, I can try it. That I could do. Like, just replace the noodles with the cabbage. I could get behind that. And it saves this woman's life. And, it says she lost 150 pounds, or I don't know what it was. And I thought it's worth a shot. At this point in time, every fad diet is worth a shot. So I go home and I start researching. Well, then we decided to take a trip to Arizona to go see my family, and we stay with my brother and his family in Arizona. And I don't know what it was about that trip, but something happened when we were there. Both Richard and I had reached our biggest weight yet. And we both on that trip just were like, we're just done. And on the way home, Richard goes, I'm done. He goes, I don't care what we have to do. I want to lose weight. It's like, I'm tired of being like this. And that was kind of the final push that I needed to just take us keto, because I'd been putting it off and researching and learning more and not really comfortable with doing it yet. So we got home and just started it. It's like, okay, let's just do it. So I took about 2 weeks to clean out our pantries and get rid of everything that was going to be a temptation to us and replaced it with healthier options. It was definitely not perfect at first, not even close. We still had regular ketchup, and then we went to the sugar-free ketchup, and we still had regular mayonnaise. And so then we went to the keto mayonnaise after that. We still had Hidden Valley Ranch. I didn't know seed oils were bad. So we did our best, and we spent a lot of money on products because that was what I was finding was the most successful way to do keto is to buy a keto shake and replace one of your meals a day with this keto shake to get all of your nutrition in, and make sure that you're drinking your greens every day, 2 to 3 servings of these powdered greens. And then you're going to want to do a really plant heavy keto that has 7 to 10 cups of vegetables, because that's where your nutrition is. So we did it, and we kind of didn't follow it super well because we really found that we felt better with the meat. So we ate more meat than we were supposed to. Thank goodness. Still not enough. I ended up losing almost half of my hair because we were restricting protein for so long to make sure that we got our veggies in. So we slowly shifted it. And about 6 months in, I woke up one morning and I remember my eyes popping open, and I looked over at Richard and I said, babe, I think I can come off my medicine. And he looked at me. He goes, how about not? It's like, please, no. I said, no, there's really something different. I can feel it. I can sense it. There's something different in my brain. Like there's a connection there that never used to be there. So he goes, if you really, really think that you can and you want to, then let's try. So call your doctor. Same doctor that had me sent away. So I called her and I talked to her about getting off of medications. And she told me that the only way I was ever going to be able to do that is if I went completely plant-based. So I said, oh, well, thank you. Yeah, that's wonderful advice. How do I step down my medications once I have my diet figured out? So I think she knew I was lying about it. She was like, well, you're never going to be able to do it, but you would have to cut your medications in half for 2 weeks and then cut it in half again and keep cutting it in half until there's nothing left. You have to go very slowly. You will hurt yourself. It should take you about 6 months to wean down. So that's what I did. It was really hard because I knew that the medications I was taking were causing other problems, and I knew that they were not helping me anymore. But I also knew by researching on my own that if I quit them cold turkey, I would cause actual physical brain damage. So I did it slowly. Not the 6 months that she recommended. It was closer to 4 months, but I got off of all of my medications. And in that time, I also lost 70 pounds. And I realized My happiness didn't come from my size. It didn't come from the weight loss. It came from allowing my brain to heal itself, from finding peace and calm because the inflammation had finally left. And my brain was finally able to communicate and the neurons could talk to each other. And there wasn't a big mess in between in the middle anymore. And I've been medication free ever since. Now, I did try to go carnivore, very, very, very strict carnivore, about a year after we went keto. We had a death in the family that hit me really, really hard. And honestly, now that I look back, I realize it was appropriate. It was an appropriate level of anxiety for the situation, but it scared me. And so I had heard that carnivore was the optimal mental health diet. So I needed to go carnivore. So I went carnivore, but the way that I did it was not right because I had been researching and I had been listening to a lot of people, and they said that the only way to do it was to go grass-fed, grass-finished with organs, no spices, nothing else, maybe a little bit of salt, and if you absolutely had to, unsalted Kerrygold butter only. So that's what I did. And that is not what my body wanted. It did not like grass-fed, grass-finished meat. The taste of it, the flavor, the smell, none of it. Didn't like the fat. Didn't like the unsalted Kerrygold butter. Because I didn't like the flavor of it, I didn't like the way that it tasted, I didn't like the way that it made me feel, I didn't eat enough. So I was back to, again, not eating enough protein, not eating enough fat, not eating enough, period, because I was convinced that that's the way that I had to do it. I stuck with that for about 2 months and things got worse. They didn't get better. They just got worse. And finally, Richard told me, he goes, you've got to bring spices back in. You got to bring coffee back in. You got to bring something back in because you're miserable. This is not better. This is not helping you. So I brought spices back in and I brought keto sauces back in. And we also switched from grass-fed, grass-finished to just a cow, a pastured cow that was grain finished, that we got locally, that I enjoyed the flavor of. And I brought back in things like chicken and fish and pork because that's what my body was craving. If I wanted eggs, I ate eggs. If I wanted chicken, I ate chicken. So I brought back in different kinds of meat. I brought back in cheese. I brought back in coffee. I brought back in everything that I could to actually help me eat because I'm always continuing my education and I'm learning that yeah, we need more protein than I thought. And protein and fat really are, yes, the most important things, but it's better for me to eat subpar protein than no protein because 500 calories a day was about what I was eating if I was lucky. And that was not health. That was not bringing me health. So finally decided to go kind of more ketovore with the sauces and the spices and the coffee and every once in a while a little bit of cauliflower. I tried bringing back in other things like cabbage and broccoli and green beans, and it was pretty disastrous on every single one of those instances. So cauliflower was what I could handle. It would make me gain about 4 pounds overnight. Was it ideal? Probably not, but I was eating, and that was what was more important. So at this point in time in my journey, I'm beginning to learn the difference between perfection and progress. I truly believed that there was a perfect formula for me to follow. And if I just followed exactly what this formula was, that I would get fantastic results every single time. I would have the same results as other people that I had seen using the same method, eating the same way. Problem is my body didn't exactly play along. Richard did great. He went carnivore and he did grass-fed, grass-finished meat. Didn't really care for the flavor too much, but he could still eat 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds every day without a problem. Mine didn't work. I mean, I would literally go to swallow and my throat would begin to close up. And I could not swallow. I couldn't swallow the water. I couldn't swallow the bite of food. I couldn't, period. And everyone kept saying, listen to your body. And oh, if you just go carnivore, then you're going to feel so amazing. And if you eat the right food for your body, you're going to feel incredible. I didn't feel incredible. I felt horrible and I felt lost and I felt like a failure. So I kept digging and I decided at that point in time that fed was better than being perfect. I couldn't do it. Progress was better than perfection. That was what was more important. So that's when I found the realm of ketovore, when adding a few extra things to help me be able to eat. And my poor husband is just along for the roller coaster ride. I mean, he's already lost a lot of weight. He's feeling so much better. a lot of his medications. He's gotten rid of them. So many health problems have been reversed, and he's just watching me like, okay, what are we doing now? Because so far it's working, so we're going to do it. But he's constantly in the background watching me try to push myself to be something that other people say will happen. They say this will happen if you do this way. And he's watching and he's like, it's not happening. And I took it personal. So many times I would break down crying and I'd be like, I'm broken. I'm the problem. Because they said all I had to do was eat grass-fed, grass-finished meat with the fat and maybe a little bit of butter. Maybe I should have gotten rid of the butter. No, the problem is my body has damage, whether it be from the medications that I was on for 20 years, or if it was from antibiotics, or if it was from illnesses when I was a child. It doesn't matter. My body has certain damaged parts to it that are making it impossible to function properly. I think there's a very good possibility that I am unable to process and absorb protein properly. I think it's one of the reasons I just can't lose the last little bit of weight, because my body is not processing the protein properly. It's not absorbing it. So I am still malnourished, because it doesn't matter how perfect the bite is that goes into your mouth. If your body doesn't break it down properly, it can't use the perfect bite of nutrition. Even when I was grass-fed, grass-finished, and with organs, I forgot to mention that. I was doing the organ meats too. So just for those of you who say I didn't carnivore hard enough, yeah, I did that. That's when I began to realize that not everybody fits into a box. That this perfect pre-made plan that you pull off the shelf doesn't fit everybody. One size really does not fit all. And it was going to take a lot more work on my part to find out, to educate myself more on what else it could be. That brought me to so many different things. We have now started to incorporate iodine, because iodine might be the next big thing. Of course, there's exercise, and there's your sleep, there's grounding, there's getting sun every single day, your vitamin D levels naturally. There's so much more to this journey than just what one person found success with. I will always continue to try to educate myself and learn more about what could help people move in the right direction. I am not one of the lucky ones that got to pull it off the shelf. It fit the first time and it stuck the whole way through. And I used to be really sad about that. But now Richard keeps reminding me he's happy that this is our journey, because now we get to help others through the same thing, and others get to realize that they're not alone. And we've discovered how artificial dyes affect our family through this journey, and how sugar affects our own children, what fruits and vegetables they can and can't have, what grains, yes, I allow my children to have grains sometimes if they want them, what grains they can and can't handle. We've had to find what works for our family. My stepkids, Cassidy and Noah, they go back and forth between our house and their mom's house, and they eat different things at both places. We find what works for our family where we are, and we share that with you in an attempt to encourage you to continue looking to see what's going to work for you. Right now, I'm actually just now cracking the door open to homeopathy. Never heard of it before, didn't really know what it was until this weird neck thing happened. And I had several friends reach out to me and say, have you tried a homeopathic remedy? And I went, what's it? So that's the newest thing that I'm going to start learning about, to see if there is a way for us to bring more health to our family. And who knows what's going to come from it. You know, the iodine makes me feel better, but you have to understand what you're doing. You have to read, you have to educate, you have to be aware of the things that you're putting into your body. Same thing goes for the homeopathy. I have a lot to learn before I do anything, and figuring out why my neck is hurting, why all of these things are happening. We have to become our best and our own health advocate, because unfortunately, no doctor is going to do it for you. No doctor is going to look at your symptoms and go, what did you eat yesterday? They just don't do that. We have to take charge of our own health. And I hope that everyone is starting to understand, as much as you want to say, no, you should never eat the PSMF bread, and you should never eat an egg in any form except for the one that it came in. Because that's actually, a comment that I got. You do you. If that's what works for you, then fantastic. Keep it up. Keep going. I tried that. I tried the whole foods for my entire family. And guess what? My kids stopped eating too. They just would rather not eat than eat. So if I have the ability to make them the PSMF bread, if I can make them my Hawaiian sweet rolls and they eat and they take it over to friend's house and they don't feel shunned and they aren't embarrassed about it and it makes them eat something that is far healthier that could be found in any grocery store, then guess what? They're going to do it and I'm going to do it, because perfection is not the goal. Progress is the goal, and it looks different for everybody. Don't judge someone else on their journey because of where they are. You were not always perfect. You are probably still not perfect. So don't pretend to be while shaming other people into doing what you think they should do. Just keep that in mind. This is a journey. Do not get sucked into someone else's journey, and do not let people control your journey. This is yours. You're the one that gets to decide. Do you even stay low carb? Feel great? Fantastic? Want to stop doing it? That is up to you. You do you. You want to go carnivore, all in hardcore carnivore because that's the way you feel best and that's what you want to do? Congratulations. I am so happy for you that you found what works for you. You were that way and you want to go back to having an avocado every day? Do it. I want you to do what makes you happy. Don't judge other people, and do not expect everyone else to rise up to your standards. You worry about you. I think that's one of the biggest things that I want people to take away from this journey that they are on, is that you can't control other people and you shouldn't let other people control you. Eat the way you're going to eat and don't worry about everybody else. There's always going to be naysayers, whether they are people in your family or people online. There's always going to be someone telling you that you did it wrong. You are the only one that gets to decide if you did it wrong. Thank goodness I have a husband who can look at me and go, babe, you're doing it wrong because you're listening to everybody else and not to yourself. And he's right. So now I'm telling you, stop listening to what everyone else has to say, and sometimes you have to listen to yourself. Be your best and loudest advocate. You make the decisions and enjoy your journey, because every stumbling block that you hit, every time you stub your toe, you're going to have a story to be able to tell and encourage someone else on their way to be able to find their help. That's why I'm on here. I'm not here for your criticism. I'm not here for your judgment. I'm here to share my story, to encourage anyone who might need to hear it. That is what I'm going to be here for as long as I am able. So I just wanted to let you guys know, for those of you who are fairly new to my channel, thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate all of you. And I wanted to save you the hassle of going back to the beginning, so I brought it to you. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you on the way. Bye. You can stay in here if you're going to be super quiet. Thank you, love. Keep going. Come shut my door, baby. Is someone here? Of course. That's going to be a long one. Sorry.